Welcome. Thank you all three of you for very enlightening, playful, and in its own way, I think, disturbing film as well. And thanks all three of you. A few questions from me before we open up to our guests here. Questions to all of you. I mean, this film was shot largely around Europe, as we'll see. But would you, Michael, would you agree that it's a film about America and for Americans?
Are we still in Europe, by the way, right now?
Well, we are technically.
We are technically still.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Which I think we should probably get onto at some point.
Right. No, I just want to know where I am.
Would you agree it's, as much as any of your previous films, it's a film about America and for Americans? I mean, by telling us all the great things that French, Italians, Norwegians, Finns and others have or do, I mean, the underlying reminder always seems to be that what Americans don't have or don't do. Did you decide that it was a more constructive, more effective, and maybe more playful way to say that and to discuss that?
Well, I've spent over 25 years pointing out everything that's wrong with the United States. And I not only not have to point out any longer to my fellow Americans, most Americans, the majority of these get it. Most Americans by now know that the rich have gotten a lot richer. Everybody else is working harder and longer for less pay, less benefits, not much time off. And so to make another film, and I said this at the end of Capitalism Love Story, at the end of my last film, I said, I've said pretty much what I want to say here. I'm not going to keep making these issue films because the issues or what's wrong has at its core an economic system that's unjust, it's unfair, and it's not democratic. And until that changes, I could make these films till the cows come home. Is that an expression here?
Yes.
You saw the cows, even after the mad business, okay. All right. Sorry. I didn't know if it was a sensitive thing to talk about the cows coming home and people no more cows. I don't want them in my house. But I also think while we were here, while we were making the film here, meaning Europe, because I'm still going to refer to the UK as Europe. While we were making this film, though, we thought that Europeans would also love this movie because it's a reminder to you of the good things that you have. And to take a look at yourselves through the outsider's eyes. Yes, I know the problems. Yes, there's a lot of, in all these countries, including yours. But still, you came up with the idea of a national health service. No other country has this. And yeah, okay, so there's some problems. Fix them. Quit whining. Fix them. But they actually start to have a discussion about taking out a pair of scissors and cutting it up, and trying to create, as you already have in previous years, a two-tier system where those who have a little more money can get a little better care now. That wasn't the original idea. Because if everybody has to have the same services, that won't, like in Finland, why they don't allow private schools. I mean, there are some, but it's illegal to charge tuition in Finland. So everybody's got to go to a public school, what we call public school. And that makes so that the rich, those who have money, have to make sure those schools are damn good. They can't just pull their kids out and send them to a better school. I said to the head of the Ministry of Education in Finland, so you don't have a Harvard, you don't have an Oxford, or Cambridge, sorry. And she goes, we have 19 Harvards and 19 Oxfords. And I said, what do you mean by that? Because every one of our universities has the same standards. And I thought, wow, what an interesting idea. That everybody should, every child should have the same shot at least. Not everybody will do as well as everybody else. We're human beings, but. So I think especially for Brits, this film can act as a reminder as to why you have done some things that are really good, and we, for the life of us, don't understand why you want to be more like us. And we love ourselves, and we love being Americans, but seriously, you know, we look to you and think, geez, it must be nice to be able to send your kids to school every day and not have to think that they're going to be mowed down in a hail of bullets.
Yeah, Brits watching the film might ask themselves why you don't come to the UK with this film. I was wondering whether you felt now, under the current government, was not the right time to hold up the UK as a great example.
It was a conscious and purposeful decision to not come to the UK, with all due respect.
Why?
We wanted to go to countries where we thought we could learn something. And we didn't, and I mean this with respect, we didn't feel that there was anything left to learn here. And that you had given up on yourselves to such a degree. The fact that you would want to put your 18 to 22-year-olds into debt simply because they want to go to university, that you would start charging like this, like you have, that's just one example, but why would you do this? Plus, I think, and they can answer for themselves, but I think for us, the filmmakers, you may be over Tony Blair, I don't know, we're not. Because, and I'll tell you why, because we expected George W. Bush to start that war. That wasn't a surprise. Nobody was surprised that Bush did that. He was able to do it because you, the Brits, under Tony Blair, gave him the cover. You made it possible for him to say, hey, it's not just me. We got Tony Blair here. And in the US, he had the New York Times, he had liberal media. You know, he was able to get liberals to act as the cover for what he was going to do. And honestly, if Blair hadn't supported that war and the so-called liberal media that got behind it at first, I don't know if he could have pulled it off. I don't know if he could have pulled it off. So I think that we're not quite over the damage that this country has done to us and to the world by so-called liberals here voting and then re-voting for an individual who was anything but a liberal. So to come here and say, hey, let's go to the UK and see what we Americans can learn from them. It's like, no, this is a toxic place. This is a place that wants to put young adults in debt. This is a place that wants to create a two-tier medical system. This is a place that has now elected this conservative government and now wants to leave the European Union. Yeah. What's going on? You know, it's like we're so, but because we're like, you know, we're Americans, so we're kind-hearted, you know, and we love Britain, and we love the British accent, and we love Downton Abbey, and you know, we love all this stuff. So we're like, well, there's got to be something good, right? And we found something that we liked about England. That apparently, your education system here a number of years ago, people started to get worried that your kids were starting to look like our kids, like as in overweight and not eating the right food. So now, I think, 12 and 13-year-olds have to take cooking class in school. They made this a big push in British, or at least English schools. And we thought, well, that's a good idea. But not enough to spend the money to come here. So, but I hope I'm not sounding offensive by saying this. I just, it's a plea for you to be Britain.
Well, one final
what we know of what the greatness that you've done and the good ideas that you've come up with, and that.
I'm going to open up to questions now, but one final question for you before we do that. You've alluded to the Brexit debate several times there. You're releasing this film in the UK in the fortnight running up to the referendum. Do you hope it has a role to play within that debate?
No, I don't think it's my role to have any say in this whatsoever, because I'm not British. So it would be not right for me to tell you what I think you should do. He said just before he told them what to do. No, no, but I will say this. It does, from the outside, look strange. You know, I mean, first of all, we can't vote to leave North America. So how do you leave Europe? I know you're not leaving Europe, you're leaving the European Union. But that's like Texas voting to leave the United States.
There's a first question there. If I get the microphone there, then there's another one there.
I just want to point out too, Carl is an Oscar nominee. He and his producing partner, Tia Lesson, made the Katrina documentary, Trouble with Water. So I just wanted to give him his props for that.
Hello, Michael. I'm Maísa Monção. I'm Brazilian, and I watched your movie in the premiere in Toronto, so it's been a long time since I went to talk to you. So I don't know if you're aware of Brazil politics right now, but we suffered...
Mosquitoes, that's all we know.
We suffered a coup d'etat.
Our news is all about being afraid.
About a month ago, so I'm afraid I have to read. It's very quick. So it is clear that the executive branch of the US government favored the coup, as some of our politicians now in power demonstrated their loyalty to Washington. My question is, do you think that US still support non-left governments in Latin America? And do Americans want to invade Brazil next?
Well, Americans never think about Brazil other than at carnival time, and they'll run 10 seconds of footage of you in some incredible swimwear. That's about all we ever hear about Brazil. I know it sounds like I'm being funny, but you, if you know anything about us or our media, know that we don't have international news. We don't know. I mean, seriously, if I walk down the street in any American city right now and said Brexit, absolutely, I'm convinced, right? Would you mind? Who would know what the hell I am talking about, right? So, so most Americans don't even know that this vote is happening. So what's going on in Brazil, you know, we've been told to be afraid of the mosquitoes that are going to give our babies small heads, and that's about it. And then every now and then they'll interview an Olympic athlete and ask them if they're going to go to the Olympics. Does the American government support left-wing governments in Latin America? Of course it doesn't. It never has. In fact, our history is to overthrow left-wing governments in Latin America. So I'm just stating the obvious.
Thank you. Question there. 3 rows back, please. Yes, give the microphone to you. Thank you very much.
Hi, Michael. It's Charlie Gurling from LBC in London. Given the current meteoric rise of Donald Trump, your title of your film could sound quite scarily prophetic. What are you going to do if he is elected this autumn? Are you going to move to Canada, perhaps?
Well, the Canadians know that millions of Americans will want to move there, so I think they're starting to strengthen their immigration laws to prevent us from leaving, make us stay and deal with our problem. Which is weird, you know, it took us an hour and a half to get through Heathrow last night, the long line, and we just looked at that EU line, and there was like nobody in it, and everybody's just going, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And I just thought, yeah, okay, you know, if they vote to leave the European Union, you know, they're going to come back and stay in this hour and a half line in 27 countries. So maybe after standing in that line, you know, for a few years, maybe people want to come back into having that quick access. I forgot your question.
Donald Trump.
Your reaction.
Of course I forgot it. I think there's an excellent chance of Donald Trump becoming the next president of the United States. People need to take that very seriously. You know, I said last August he would be the Republican nominee. He knows something. He knows how to manipulate a dumbed-down population whose schools have been wrecked, whose media is just insipid and stupid and doesn't give people the facts about what's going on. So the public is easily manipulated by somebody like him, those who vote for him. He had record turnouts. He has the largest rallies. He supports a 21st century version of fascism, of marrying the state and capital together to benefit the few at the expense of the many, and in the process blame the other. The other is causing your problems. Let's build a wall. Let's ban Muslims. I don't believe the majority of Americans agree with him, but it's going to be who shows up to vote. That's your problem too, in a week and a half, right? Because I'm guessing the majority of Brits probably don't want to leave the European Union, but on election day, on Saturday, on a special election, who's going to be out there? The haters. Sadly, it will motivate more people to get out of bed on that Saturday morning to vote. So we're going to have the same problem. The haters will all be there voting on election day. And, you know, whether people will be enthusiastic about voting for Hillary Clinton, they're going to be more enthusiastic about voting for not Trump. In fact, if Hillary were to go to the courthouse today and just change her name to not Trump, and so when you go in the voting booth, it just says Trump, not Trump, then I think we're okay. But I would take this very seriously. And I'm a person in the past, could I just do an impersonation of myself at 25 years old? All right, this not an actor, but this is kind of what it looks like, or looked like. There's no way this country's gonna elect an actor to be president. And B film actor whose main co-star was a chimpanzee. There's no way this is gonna happen. That's me at 25. Here's me at 45. There's no way this country's gonna vote for George W. Bush. There's no way. Did you see him in the first debate? He was asked, who's the president of Pakistan? And his answer was, General is his name. Okay, and we're like, he'll never be president. Okay, now, older and wiser, I'm well aware that my fellow Americans could elect Donald Trump as president of the United States, and millions are concerned about that. The good news is the math. 80% of the people voting in November are either women, people of color, or young adults between the ages of 18 and 35. That's 80% of the electorate. He has done a massive job in pissing off all three of those groups. He is not going to win a majority of women. He is not going to win a majority of blacks and Hispanics. He's not going to win a majority of young people. So if people show up to vote, no problem. But that's the problem.
Thank you. Must keep getting more questions in. If I can
I'll give a shorter answer to that, sorry.
There's a question there on the end of the row, then I'll come over to you there. Thanks.
Hi. Madeline Host of the Foreign Press Association Paris and Documentary Magazine. I was wondering about your title, because when I see you plant the flag, I didn't see it that way. I saw you visiting other countries and taking the beautiful things from them, like the flowers, like you say, not the weeds, and bringing that back to America. And wouldn't it be more effective if you took the flag of Slovenia and Italy and France, and when you go back to all the different places in America, plant that there, and people go, and then you say, well, this is what we're going to have over there, this is what we have over there. And because nobody wants the American flag. Not in Finland or anywhere, they don't want the prison system, they don't want the
Did you notice that on the looks on their faces?
Yeah, it's like, I don't want the prison system, I don't want the death penalty, I don't want the corrupt Wall Street, I don't want the bad education, bad food. So that's how I saw it, the reverse. And then, like your other films, why wouldn't you show it at the Senate and Congress and House of Representatives? Show them, get those idiots to look at this.
So first was why the invasion rhetoric, and then why will you show it?
The title was meant to throw people off. I'm sure most filmmakers don't want to be, we don't want you to assume that you know what I'm going to be doing next, and I'd like to keep it fresh and original and something different, and but I knew that people would think, oh, he's going to show us what the Pentagon's up to and where we're going to invade next. And but part of it too was this idea of the United States has been an invading force for the last 15 plus years, and what if we were to invade, not in a violent way, but for good reasons, you know, to try and learn something and take something back home. So that's why we called it that. As far as planting the American flag, well, that's, you know, I mean, we're also satirists, so obviously you get the satire of it. Your final part of your question was
just repeat that. Does he plan to? Does he want to show it at Congress? Was that
oh yes, we did have we had a congressional screening, and I think we had at least 9 of the 535 members of Congress show up. But many of the place was full, so they sent their staff. But yes, no, we did have a nice screening right inside the Capitol building. This is the first time for me. I've never been allowed in there to show any of my films. So.
And I would just add that every member of Congress and every senator is receiving a DVD of the film.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, do you want to move on pretty quickly because we're going to stop? Yeah.
It was about the healthcare. Oh God, it was about the healthcare system. Oh, in America, when you talk to people about Obamacare or free medicine, because I lived in 5 different countries here, it's all free. They say there's this greed and there's self, and they don't want to share things. What is that in America? People don't want to share their money.
Yeah, it's the big difference between us and the rest of the world. You operate with the concept of we. Your policies are formed around we. We are all in the same boat. We are going to sink or swim together. If too many people get sick and can't see a doctor and go bankrupt and lose their homes, as a result of that, our society suffers. So we're not going to allow that to happen. You make a collective decision to live that way. We operate under the concept of me. Me, myself, and I. I got my problems, you got your problems. I'll take care of mine, you take care of yours. You're sick, get it, not my problem. I'm sick, I'll take care of it. That is sadly an American bootstrapping kind of mentality that has not done us well. And we haven't always been like that. I mean, I think you know this about us historically, certainly in our relationship with this country, that we were very much about the we. But I think we've kind of lost our way with that. And not that we were ever, Trump says, make America great again. Well, great again when? When if you were black or Hispanic or gay or a woman or whatever, that you had no power and you had to sit at the back of the bus. But I think that basically that you and the other countries, most of the other countries structure yourselves around a basic, it's the difference between your football and what we call football. Your football is very much about the we. And I remember the first time I went to, I saw what we call soccer. The first time ever I saw a soccer game was at Arsenal Stadium. And the guy had the ball on his foot and he's heading down field, but he's like kind of holding up a little bit. And I'm saying to the guy, I'm saying, why is he waiting? He goes, oh, the rules are you'll be offside. You have to wait till there's a defender. There has to be somebody there. I said, why? You've got the fucking ball. Go for it. Because when we have the ball, man, we're gone. And he says to me, because it wouldn't be fair. Oh, wow. And it's like, when you score a goal, you get 1 point. We score a goal, we get 6 points. Why? It's 1 point. It's just that sort of, I don't mean, sorry to draw a sports analogy to it, but it really is the way that the world functions. Even an awful sport like rugby, everybody's like, you're the big scrum, everybody's in there looking like, well, I don't want to say what it looks like, but, and it's like, and then, Tommy's got the ball and they're taking Tommy down and Tommy goes, here, Joe, you take the ball, you go. We got the ball, you get tackled, that's it. There's nobody helping you. In rugby, you throw the ball off and then Joe takes off. And they get Joe and then Joe goes, Billy, here. It's just like, that's kind of the NHS, Tommy, Joe, Bill, whatever, it's, we're going to help each other here.
We've probably got time for a couple more questions. Is there one in the front still? Yeah, and one behind there. So those 2, I hope. Please.
Hi, Michael. Stuart O'Connor from Screen Jabber. Many years ago, you had a couple of regular weekly TV shows. There was TV Nation, and then there was The Awful Truth. Do you think it's maybe time for you to go back to doing a weekly show where you can tackle an issue every week rather than a film every 3 or 4 years?
I've thought about that. Yeah. Yes. It's a lot of work, and but yes, of course I thought about that. We brought Louis Theroux to the world. Isn't that enough? And he carried on, and then we were able to go make our movies, basically. So. Yes, and I don't know what else to say to that.
There's a question behind there in the second row. Thank you.
Hi, Michael. Joe Detested from the Press Association. Just a couple of parts to my question, really. You've obviously been in the burn. What do you make of Jeremy Corbyn, similar candidate similar kind of politician in the UK? And if he was to become Prime Minister in 2020 or before, would you revisit this film and come to the UK? And just secondly, on Trump, he's visiting the UK on the day we find out the result, so whether we leave Europe or not. Do you think that's typical of his politics and the way he does things?
You're actually going to let him in. Is that right? I thought there was a discussion about whether or not that his speech represents a hate crime. No? He's going to come here? For his golf course?
He'll be in the long queue at Heathrow, so. He'll be in the long queue at Heathrow, at least.
He won't be flying into Heathrow. Right? He's probably built his own landing strip up by the golf course. Right?
So the first part was about Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, I think Jeremy Corbyn is a wonderful step forward for the Labour Party in this country. I think it's interesting that a democratic socialist with your Labour Party and Bernie Sanders, a democratic socialist, who has 46% of the delegates in the United States of America, a socialist, has 46% of the pledged delegates, and has won 22 of the states, almost half. A socialist. I mean, it's incredible. It's an incredible moment. And when I saw that the party here had elected Corbyn, I thought, wow, talk about atonement for Blair. That's getting back to Labour, what it stood for in its roots. And I wish Tony Benn was still around to be able to see this and the potential of what you suggested in 2020, or before even, would be good. Not that it's any of my business because I'm an American. But no, I think it's all good. It's all forward movement, and hopefully good for our country and good for your country.
There's one final question I want to get in the middle there. Was there anything you wanted to say on the second part, Trump, golf course, day of day, the referendum?
Trump coming from the day we find out. I mean, is that antagonising, kind of using the media?
I think he's a master at using the media, and the media is very willing to comply. And he's not as stupid as he looks. You should take it very seriously. He knows the manipulation that's going on here, and the use of propaganda, and the way he's doing it is just brilliant in the sense that he has succeeded and has succeeded. 17 other candidates couldn't find a way to bring him down. 17 others. And now Hillary Clinton is trying to do the same thing, using logic, brains, things like that. It's going to require something else. My personal opinion is my hope that satire is what brings Donald Trump down. And you could do a little bit of that while he's here, because aren't you guys the masters of this, the originators? Well, I guess Swift was Irish, but you know what I mean.
I'm going to take that one final question in the middle there, please. You got it.
Hi all, it's Henry Barnes here from The Guardian. Michael, could you just clarify exactly why Britain should stay in the EU for us? And to all of you, what do you think Barack Obama's legacy has been as president?
Again, I don't think it's not really my place to tell you what I think you should do. I can say, as an outsider, it's, why would you do this? You saved Europe. Europe today is in large part because of you, the UK. You sacrificed and suffered in the 30s and 40s to save Europe. Why would you want to leave? Because, let's see, what are the arguments I've had to listen to this morning already on the news? It costs too much money. It's 50 billion pounds a day. Immigrants. Really? You know, that's not who you are. Come on. You know, you got rid of slavery before the United States did. You know,
that's controversial because there was a finite reason for that.
Well, whatever the reasons were for the motivation, the fact is that Britain throughout history eventually will do the right thing, right? How odd it seems to us that you would want to leave Europe but stay in Ireland. You know, seriously, we're leaving here, but we're